What is loneliness? Loneliness, it's a complex and emotional state that has at its base a very powerful emotional pull. Right, that seems pretty straightforward. And it also has a survival value for children. All of us, at one point or another, we've experienced some degree of abandonment, if only for a short time, and also long term. No matter how long you've had that sense of abandonment, loneliness, being cast aside, it'll leave a very painful mark on you, no matter how old you get. And that's pretty bad on its own. In this video, we're going to go through 10 ways you can overcome loneliness, and I hope by the end of this video, I've learned something new, and maybe you've learned something new too. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and without any further ado, let's get started. The first one, realize that loneliness is a feeling, not a fact. When you're feeling lonely, it's because something has triggered a memory of why you're feeling lonely in the first place. It's not because of the fact that you're isolated and you're alone. Our brains are designed to pay attention to pain and danger, and that includes painful, scary feelings. Therefore, loneliness gets our attention. And this kind of goes into the whole healing from a traumatic experience video I did not too long ago. It's basically the same concept. However, when your brain tries to make sense of what you're feeling, that's when the negative thoughts come up. You ask yourself, why are you alone? Nobody loves me. Am I mean? You get confused with the facts. And then that escalates into something like severe depression. Or maybe you get a panic attack, anxiety attack, because you feel like you're useless, you're alone, and there's nothing you can really do. And this can be a big problem because mental health can have very dangerous side effects, as you guys already know. Reach out because loneliness is painful and it can make you feel like you're a loser and an outcast. You might react by withdrawing yourself into your own thoughts and your own lonely feelings, and this isn't helpful. At its best, anticipation of loneliness might motivate us to reach and cultivate friendships, which is the healthiest thing to do if you're sad and alone. I'll leave a card right here to go check out the video on how healthy friendships affects your overall health. When your child and your sadness makes you want to cry, you may draw in a comforting response from others. If you're an adult, not so much. Basically, no one cares about your feelings when you're an adult. So that's pretty much how it is. Notice your self-deflating thoughts. We often make self-centered stories to explain our feelings when we were young. It's not unusual for children to assume that there is something wrong with them if they are not happy. If they are lonely and sad, children may assume that other people don't like them when this is rarely the case. I grew up a pretty lonely and sad child, but I didn't really, get the sense that people really cared. I went through a lot of stuff growing up, mentally and emotionally, and really, I never really took notice to anyone caring. I guess that's why I don't really have friends now either, like in my age bracket, per se. Children who are victims of bullying may have friends, but they often aren't aware of it because of the shame and loneliness that gets more attention. Now when they become adults, their assumptions about social status continue. And if you're looking for evidence that the world sucks, you're gonna find your answer. And that's not necessarily a good thing either. Make a plan to fight the mental and emotional habits of loneliness. If you realize you're dealing with an emotional habit, you can make a plan to deal with loneliness. Since healthy interaction with friends is good, make effort to reach out to others, to initiate conversations, initiate those phone calls, those FaceTime calls, those face-to-face interactions. Even when your loneliness and your depression and your anxiety and your panic, they're all telling you not to. You have to sometimes give that little push to drag them to the side so you can be able to feel like you're not totally alone. Because remember, it's okay to not be okay, and you're not alone. It's normal to feel like this, and there's always someone out there who can support you. Focus on the feeling and needs of others. You can walk down the street having your mind full of negative thoughts, telling yourself that you're always going to be lonely, that you're hopeless, starting off your week in a bad way. Or you can take a different approach and try and have a little bit of positivity. You can walk down the street giving positive vibes to people, giving them smiles, maybe a little wave if they're walking by you, maybe start up a little conversation. Don't let the negative thoughts knock you down. Channeling them into being a bit more positive can help you in the long run. I've done that too. Of course, living in a city like Toronto, there's a lot of people who are full of themselves. You try that, you get looks of disgust, maybe you get flipped off. But it's the effort that counts, right? Find others like you. Nowadays, you have more access to tools than ever before. And you can use these tools to find people who share the same hobbies as you, such as, bicyclists, knitters, crocheters, small musicians in the city, artists, writers. The list goes on. You can use social media to find people who have similar interests to you, meet up with them. Maybe this can be the ground basis to starting a new friendship. You never know. Now, this one I can relate to because I always cancel sometimes, and that is always show up when meeting up with others. You don't have to be the leader of the meetup. You don't have to be the boss. You know what I'm saying. But you do have to show up. You can't just make the plans and then not show up, because then you're going to look like a jerk, basically. You have to be able to give yourself that push. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to move forward to succeed in your goal if you're trying to make new friends, trying to get new connections. You have to be able to give yourself that push. You don't want to be labeled as a no-show all the time, as that jerk, because you never know. Let's say you're in a big Facebook group for knitters, and you always say you're going to show up to an event or a group meetup and you never show up. You're going to be labeled as a no-show, and people are going to get annoyed with you. Maybe they'll eventually kick you out of the group. You never know. So try to be as optimistic as possible and try to always show up.
It's okay to be curious. Each time you show up, it's like a social experiment. If you're curious about and interested in others, they'll be attracted to you because you're giving them attention. So in return, you're going to give them attention too. Curiosity about others also takes your focus away from those painful feelings that tend to make you play hide and go seek. Kindness goes a long way. You have the power to offer loving kindness and generosity to all of those who you come into contact with. It isn't instinctual to be kind to strangers or kind to people who scare you. It's a choice, and sometimes that choice can better you in the long run. It can also make someone's day a lot better in addition to yours. It can go from maybe giving a nice wave to buying someone coffee behind you in the line at a coffee shop. You never know. In the long run, it's a winning choice. The alternative to this is being mean or stingy to those you don't know well, or even those you do know well, and the end result, getting a reputation of being a Scrooge. Our final point, be persistent. Persistence is key, and persistence can go a long way. So let's say the group that you meet up with isn't your cup of tea. It's not the end of the world. It's not a dead end. You can find another group, right? It's a social experiment to find where you fit in and where you feel most comfortable in. This also goes for friends too. If you meet some friends who end up becoming toxic maybe a month or two down the road, or they're just not your cup of tea, same thing. It's not the end of the world. You can try and find different friends who you can connect with better. You can redesign your loneliness by being kind to others. Remember, the odds are ever in your favor. And once you have a friend or two, nourish those friendships with time and attention and affection. Don't be cautious whether you're giving them too much attention at first. If you make more friends and some of them are takers, you can choose to spend more time with the friends who reward your friendship. Pretty much what that's saying is, it's okay to make a lot of friends. Just divide your time evenly between your group of friends. If they don't know each other, maybe introduce them to each other. It could make it easier when it goes to arranging hangouts and doing fun things. You never know. The ball's in your court. With that being said, we've come to the end of our video. I didn't really learn too much from this, but maybe you guys did. Let me know in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.